in the IUCN office for Eastern Europe. Am I right?
Yeah, Eastern Europe and Central Asia.
That's right. And she will talk about the ADAPT, which is the nature-based solutions project that IUCN is spearheading in Serbia and in the neighboring countries. So Berit, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, hello to everyone. Good morning, right? It's still morning. And thank you for having me today with you. So for those who don't know me, my name is Milica Radanović. I work as NbS officer in IUCN ECARO, which is abbreviation for IUCN's regional office for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. My work is more focused on our region, so Western Balkans region, and I will be presenting you today two of our projects, one that ended and its second phase that started a couple of months ago. And I will actually present the key results of the first one and our plans for the second one, trying to focus more on our NbS pilot project and our policy work. I think I have a lot of slides, so I'll try to skip or go quickly through some of them, so we have enough time to discuss in the end, if any questions. But yeah, feel free. Also, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't see the clock here on the screen when I'm sharing, so please feel free just to speed me up if needed. So this first phase of the project was called Nature-Based Solutions for Resilient Societies in the Western Balkans. And it was more focused on the disaster risk reduction. So implementation of nature-based solutions for disaster risk reduction. It was funded by SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency. It lasted for 5 years, not 4 as it says the slide. So we started in November 2019 and ended in December 2024. It was initially intentioned that project lasts 4 years, but due to COVID and all the complications due to that, it was extended for another year. And geographical scope is Western Balkans region, actually all 6 economies of this region. So we had 3 components of the project, or 3 work packages, let's say. First, dedicated to knowledge, capacity, and awareness, where we try to strengthen knowledge and awareness through different ways, producing some publications, doing some research, organizing capacity building trainings and study visits. Then we had component dedicated to policy integration and climate smart planning, where we did one comprehensive policy analysis and had some advocacy activities. I will speak in more details in the following slides. And the third component was about implementation of NbS on the ground and scaling up NbS in the region. So in this component, we implemented 2 pilot projects, NbS pilot projects, one in Serbia and the other in Albania, and developed some concept notes, or let's say project proposal, project ideas for implementation of NbS in some economies of the region. So as for the first component, enhanced knowledge and capacity, we produced so-called scoping studies for each economy of the Western Balkans. These documents actually, they investigated basis for implementation of NbS in each economy and set out recommendations for deploying NbS on the economy level. We tried, or our experts tried, to map main climate risks and hazards and their causes. So, excuse me, I'm a bit, I have a quote. So apart from that, as a part of this work package, we produced several knowledge products, amongst them this compendium of best practices where we presented our work, so our 2 pilots, but also some other very relevant NbS pilot projects in the region. This document is available on our website. I can share links with Maya after the presentation, so she can forward everything to you. Maybe it will be valuable for your work. Apart from that, I would strongly suggest to you to get yourself familiarized with this Panorama Solutions platform. If you don't know about that, it's a tool for showing successful NbS projects globally. And we presented our 2 pilots there as well. There is really a lot of information. I mean, there are a lot of different examples of different NbS projects in different sectors and with different level of information, but it can be really useful for ideas for developing projects. It's pretty good. Then we organized NbS trainings and in each Western Balkans economy. So we had over 120 participants coming from public institutions, CSOs, academia, private sector. We had young professionals, individual experts. Amongst them, we had 48 decision makers and natural resource managers. Actually, we highlight this because these people are mostly involved in policy development, so they are also policy makers, and strengthening their knowledge about the topic is maybe crucial, actually, because that is the way how we can properly introduce the topic into policies and set the basis for its implementation on the ground. So this training was divided into 3 modules. First module was about foundations and decision making for NbS. The second about planning, design, and implementation on the ground. And the third about sustainability, so with more details about financing, monitoring, and evaluation as very important aspect of NbS project, and scaling up. There is a lot of other details there, but no need to go into that. And then,
can I make a short question? Can I make a short question? Just go back to the net. Yeah. Do you know who from Serbia is trained, by name, so that can be addressed? You said 48 decision makers and natural resource manager. Can we contact them through you, or it could be useful for us to know who is already trained and to try to work with them?
Yes, I can share the list. This is total number of decision makers from entire Western Balkans. So not all of them are from Serbia. We had around 30 people, 25 to 30 in each training. So I can share, I think I can share the list with you.
Identify for us who from Serbia is the person to be in contact with.
Yes, we can take that.
Sorry, but I was just I also have one question. Where we can find those documents from before you show us slides?
You mean scoping studies and compendium?
Yeah.
And well, everything is, some of them are at IUCN Library. That is a separate platform where you can find all IUCN's publication. It is called IUCN Library, and it is fed with a lot of documents. So I think it would be, some of them are there, and leaflets or these short publications as this compendium of best practices are published on our website. So I would suggest that I actually list all these links and share it with Maya, so Maya can forward that to you. Everything is online, but I mean, sometimes it's not that easy to find it, you know, amongst this million of documents everywhere.
Maybe you
Is that
can
fine?
share, yeah, if it's difficult to find.
No, she will share
will.
to us.
Yeah, I will share, no problem. Yeah, I'll
Just
share
we
it.
need to speed up.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry,
I
thank
can
you,
move on, or there is, some other question?
No, you can move on.
Okay. So the last activity related to this first component was organization of study tour to Bonn in Germany. It was organized in April, actually 2023. There is a mistake here. And we had 18 representatives of governmental institutions from all economies, Western Balkan economies. So we organized a series of lectures, presentations in international and national institutions and organizations for our participants, such as UNDRR, UNCD, BMUV, our Euro office that is covering EU region. The idea here was to introduce them with some other practices, to get them familiarized with, to share with them all important information related to their sectors and implementation of NbS. I mean, sometimes it goes broader than NbS, but it's still very relevant for the topic. Then, as for the component 2 and policy integration, first of all, we produced this policy analysis. We'll share the link as well, where we wanted to see how NbS are captured into different sectoral policies relevant for climate change adaptation, DRR, and in general implementation of NbS. So our experts reviewed, all policy framework related to sectors such as nature protection, conservation, DRR, as said, forestry, water management, agriculture, climate change, and in order to map gaps, to see what are possibilities for implementation, for mainstreaming NbS, and how NbS are supported so far through the policy framework. Also through this document, some ongoing processes related to policy work are mapped as well. And then to jump onto next slide, we try to influence through this project. We try to influence these ongoing policy processes, meaning documents that policies or policy documents that have been developed at the time. So maybe just to stop here and present, I assume you already know, but maybe it will be also valuable and important, that there are two general approaches when it comes to policy and advocacy work. One is to focus our work and our planning on the processes that are planned, to be worked on. Mostly, or I mean, at least in Serbia, our government adopts their work plan on development and adopting policy documents for that year. So at the very beginning of the year, you can plan through your project to work on that. Or you can plan more in advance, you can develop your project around, your work for some specific document. However, it happens quite often that actually these processes not even start at that year, and actually you're not able to implement your activity because you're dependent on someone else. That's why we selected here another approach, and that is, trying to map ongoing processes, something that is already happening, and to influence them, to try to introduce NbS as a concept into those documents, so we have a strong basis for its implementation on the ground. Without this, it's really hard to implement it properly. In total, we contributed to 12 policies on different levels, from laws to strategies, and in different sectors, so in nature protection sector, forestry, water management, and so on. When we speak about the content, depending on the policy, we contributed with different level of information. So for law, you mostly need like only definition. But then when it comes to documents such as this Isham River Basin Management Plan or any type of strategy or action plan, where you have very concrete measures, indicators, plan how you're going to implement your work. There we tried to introduce some specific measures related to NbS. So that is shortly about our policy. It's one very important thing that we worked and contributed to development of green agenda for the Western Balkans, which I'm going to mention later through the second phase of this project. And that's very relevant national policy, regional policy. We also produce these policy briefs on economics, finance, governance, mostly for policymakers, but I will share this with you as well. As for the third component, implementation of NbS and scaling up, we had we implemented 2 pilot projects, as I already mentioned, in Serbia and Albania. Then we did so-called tender dossier for one NbS pilot in North Macedonia, which was basically baseline, not feasibility study on implementation of NbS in one location in North Macedonia. And we also developed concept notes or project proposals for new NbS projects in the region. So I will dive more deeply into our pilot in Serbia. So a location was Gledić, which is a village in the city of Kraljevo. Why Gledić? Actually, I mean, I assume you all are familiar with the situation with floods in Kraljevo. So we firstly, of course, did wide consultation process with different stakeholders from national to local level, from governmental institutions, these national ones, to self-government, local self-government, then with local communities, relevant CSOs, and so on. Of course, they all said that major societal challenge there is are floods and landslides, and of course, very closely related to that, soil erosion. I mean, in the last 10 or 15 years, floods are pretty frequent in this region of Kraljevo, and infrastructure, agricultural land, housing, forests, there are really affected with these torrential floods. As a main reason for that, we recognize mismanagement or improper management of forests and uncontrolled urbanization. But this first one is a major one. So I joined your first day yesterday at the very beginning, so I was able to hear only this short presentation about NbS standard, where your colleague said in the first slide that if you don't have societal challenge, you don't have NbS project. So this is something that we, as I explained, try to map and recognize at the first step. So what you can see here are societal challenges relevant for this pilot project in Serbia. So ecosystem degradation, biodiversity loss, climate change adaptation and mitigation, disaster risk reduction. Of course, there is more societal challenges than this. These are kind of groups presented in IUCN standard, but yeah, there is more than that. Here, I already mentioned the wide consultation process, and that is something that is really high priority when it comes to developing NbS project, and that is a participative approach when developing the project, and involvement of all relevant stakeholders. Okay, here I mentioned monitoring and evaluation framework, but I think I can mention it in more details a bit afterwards, because that is one of, that is also a very important step in the process. So I don't know how to move this. I don't know if you can see this, this bar, but okay. So can you see normally my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you see this black bar here in the top part of this?
No.
Okay, it's on. Oh, yeah, it's only me. Okay, so objectives of this pilot project were, first of all, identification of height opportunities for restoration in the municipality, actually city of Kraljevo, for flood mitigation and disaster risk reduction using Rome framework. So Rome, that's restoration opportunity assessment methodology that has been applied during the baseline study. So in the first stage of this pilot project, the purpose of this methodology is actually to, as it is mentioned here, to identify exact locations where you should implement your measures, and in the end, and where you can achieve the best possible results at the same time. So normally we'll have, bigger or smaller scale projects, but no matter scale, for the success of your project, it's important to spot the most important locations where you should implement your measures, because most probably you don't have enough money to cover the entire space with your measures, because it can be really costly. The other objective is to design suitable NbS interventions, meaning we used here a forest landscape restoration approach because this area is mostly covered by forest, and if you remember, second criterion of NbS standard, it's about the scale, and it's important actually to consider, in this case, all types of habitats that you have, or not only habitats, but also, let's say, settlements. So everything that is around your forest, and that can impact your work, or which can, where your work can have some effect. Third objective is to give a set of recommendations for the pilot project design and potential pathways for local and external financiers, meaning to design the exact measures, which I'll mention afterwards. When you speak about process, here what you can see here, these four stages or parts, that is all part of baseline study. So the baseline study is crucial, I would say, because through this you do data collection, both through the desk research and field research. You analyze data, and it's important when I speak about NbS project to involve people from with different expertise. So from I don't know, biodiversity, forestry. That is what we. Those are experts that we involve concretely in our project. So biodiversity experts, forestry experts, socioeconomic expert, gender expert, because you need to have to consider many different aspects in order to actually be aware which type of measures and where exactly you should implement. So in the end of this baseline, of course, you will have kind of report which will provide you with more information about exact locations and type of intervention you should implement. Then this is baseline part. Then after that comes the NbS technical design. In this stage, you develop, very concrete measures with concrete information. So this measure should be implemented at this exact location. You should also include information such as if you have planting the seedlings, let's say, there you should specify concretely which species you should plant, what's the mixture, so number of each species, then exact location, and so on. So technical design is a very technical document that serves as a basis for the company or those who are implementing a project in the field. Like a roadmap, just they are using it, reading and implement, and that's it. So this is the last stage, execution. There's something in between. We have this permitting part. So depending on the project, you would need to gather some permits for implementation of some measures. My advice here would be that you consider this at the baseline stage. Why? It's because this can take a lot of time, to gather all necessary permits, and also it can affect your project. It can happen that you are not able to get some permits, or that it takes too much time. It goes, it takes more than your project lasts, or something like that. And so it complicates your project and can jeopardize it. So then when you consider this permitting part at the baseline, you can say that, due to complications in permitting process, we give up from implementing measures at some locations, because that is the adaptive approach. You need to adapt to different circumstances, amongst others, this administrative things. Together with that, there is one thing that maybe it's better to mention now, but also it goes as the lessons learned from our project, and that is the ownership of the land. I'm not sure if you're working with NbS in agriculture. I assume it's mostly privately owned land, but nevertheless, it can happen in different projects that you have both private and public land and so on. So, of course, you will have different approach based on the ownership, land ownership. But when it comes to private land, it can be really a huge challenge, at least in Serbia. So something that we faced with, we actually developed this project in the area with, I think, only private land. And there we had really a lot of plots, like I think even around 50 land plots. So with different owners. Only few of these parcels were owned by one person, and we had situation that you have like 5 owners up to 24. I mean, it was quite crazy. But I mean, when you plan to implement some measures on privately owned land, you of course need to have agreement with the owner. Because you cannot just enter someone's land and start working something. And on the other hand, you need somehow to be sure these measures will be maintained and secured. You don't want this to be just destroyed after the project ends. So for that purposes, we signed agreements with landowners, but this took a lot of time. And you need to have agreement with each owner of the parcel, not only one person. And then you face a lot of challenges. Some of them want to have works on their land, some don't. You don't have like clear picture or situation between status on the ground and in cadastre are not aligned very often. So, I mean, this is pretty challenging, and that is something that I would strongly recommend that you consider in the baseline stage. So, because based on that, you will decide where is the best to implement your measures. Then when we speak concretely about our measures in Gledić, this group or type of measures are recommended through a baseline study based on research, and then further developed and elaborated through project design. So we had several FLR interventions, natural forest rehabilitation, rehabilitation by planting, enrichment planting, bioengineering measures, which were construction of loose stone dams, which are not really dams as you would picture them. It's more kind of rocks grouped into one place, like a small that is completely blended in the landscape, but the purpose of it is to basically be an obstacle for the to slow down torrential streams. And as the last one, there are silvopastoral systems. So we had we mapped 3 types of zones. This red, yellow, and blue. So in red zones, degradation is the highest, both land degradation and forest degradation. And there we constructed this loose stone check dams and did underplanting and enrichment planting. So most of the planting happened in these zones. And due to strong erosion and a lot of slopes there, we built, digged a type of let's call it holes, called gradonis. This is L-profile ruptures, let's say, down the slope, in which we planted the seedlings. The purpose, again, is to slow down a bit the torrential streams. In yellow zones are in a better condition than red. And also in yellow zones, we have more grasslands, concretely pastures. So in this zone, we implemented this so-called silvopastoral system. These measures were more for locals they consist of making the fence, so fencing the area and building water reservoir for the cattle. But this is from one side support to locals, and their local farmers and their work. And from on another hand, it served to help keeping healthy grasslands, with pasture, with grazing. So the third one is not green but blue, and this is the area that is in the best condition, let's say, but still needs some interventions in order to improve the health of the forest. And there we implemented natural forest rehabilitation. With these measures, we mapped seedlings, small trees of specific native species, and cleared the area around them so we can deliberate, room for them to from the weeds so they are able to grow normally. So these are two photos of how it looks in the red zones, very bad and degraded. So these are lessons learned. I mentioned most of them, and just to mention the last one, it is about seedling availability. I'm not sure it will be relevant for you. I'm not sure what type of measures you plan to implement, but when it comes to seedlings, this is something that again you should really investigate in detail. We had a situation that we needed to extend the project for the entire year because we were left out of seedlings. It happened that we reserved out our seedlings in tree nursery, public enterprise. However, due to storms and the windbreaks that happened in summer 2024, they had to keep all the seedlings for themselves, and they couldn't just sell to us, no matter we reserved everything, and but it was like that. That was the situation. So it's always good to have a backup plan with maybe some private companies that can that have different internal procedures. So yeah, that's it. Then very shortly to go through this, we did scaling up of NbS. So we developed 3 concept notes, meaning 3 project proposals for 3 economies in the Western Balkans, where we would like actually to implement more concrete NbS activities. We didn't have activities on the ground in these economies, and that is why we developed additional project proposals there. And of course, again, it's important. And what we did is to organize a wide consultation process from the very beginning. So you have participation of different stakeholders, so various groups who would help with their expertise and their knowledge and experience to map properly societal challenges and to select the best possible location, wider location, let's say, for implementation of your project. So then to move on, just to see what the time. Okay, I'll try to speed up. So with the second phase, unlike the first phase, which was more focused on DRR, in the second phase, we focus more on climate change mitigation and adaptation. So this project should last until mid-2028. It is the geographical scope is the same as is the donor. You will see here that we have again 3, let's say the same 3 work packages, but with different activities. So in the first work package, our objective is to strengthen knowledge and awareness on the role of nature-based solutions in climate change mitigation and adaptation. Here we plan to have, as in the first phase, continuous promotion and communication campaign in order to raise awareness amongst general public. But then we plan to have specific activities such as capacity building on NbS, then producing this report on ecosystem benefits on NbS and opportunities for their integration into the development of climate biodiversity plans. Then we plan to screen the NbS activities and approaches in order to promote more successful usage of IUCN's NbS standard. And we also plan to create a community, a so-called community of practice on NbS, where our main stakeholders should be CSOs and academia. This platform or this structure should serve for consultation processes. So I will mention in the next slide more details about the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, but we plan to produce several important regional documents. And our idea is, of course, to have broad consultations and to involve CSOs and academia, to hear from them, to gather important information and inputs for developing of these documents, so no one is left behind, ideally. And also this platform should serve as for sharing important information on the topic and for sharing knowledge. So with this, we plan to contribute to Action 54 of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans. So when I finally came to this famous Green Agenda. So this second objective is related to second component, and it's about policy work, actually. So if you don't know, the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans is a regional policy, regional strategy for sustainable development, let's say. It has, I think, 5 pillars, one of them being pillar dedicated to nature protection and biodiversity conservation. That is the pillar that we are going to work on. Each pillar has a list of its own activities that needs to be implemented in order to achieve the goal of this strategy. This strategy is actually part of EU accession process. So our focus here will be first on regional cooperation. So yeah, IUCN together with RCC is official coordinator for this pillar 5 of the Green Agenda. And that is why we are taking the lead in preparation of some of these documents. So main political structure that is also recognized through this document for the pillar 5 is BDTF, that is Biodiversity Task Force. Members of this structure are representatives of ministries of environmental protection from each economy of the Western Balkans. And it works for several years now. They will be strongly involved in this process as the main political structure, as I said, and they are, key stakeholders for every consultation regarding this process. But given that NbS are broader than nature protection and should take into account other relevant sectors, such as, I mentioned already, but forestry, water management, agriculture, and other. Our idea is to establish so-called regional cooperation group, where we would involve stakeholders from different sectors, and it should also be the platform through which we are going to do the consultation process, something similar to community of practice. We just decided to kind of divide these structures because it's easier when you work with smaller group of stakeholders. It's just because of that. The main document that we are going to work on and develop is first restoration opportunity assessment report for the Western Balkans, which should assess forest landscape degradation opportunities for biodiversity gains and climate adaptation. Based on this document, we should develop forest landscape restoration plan for the Western Balkans. It sounds big because it is. It covers a huge region. So the main point of this document is, as it is planned and meaning kind of strategic document, it should include some concrete measures and indicators. Most probably you will focus more on transboundary cooperation there and give guidelines for each economy, how they, what are the most important, let's say, issues that they need to address through their own forest landscape restoration plans, or however they call it. But to give them guidelines to do more detailed document, because it's not possible on this level to do really detailed document. Okay, this is a list of actions. I wouldn't go in detail through this, but basically you can see here the list of actions of Pillar 5, protection of nature and biodiversity, and Pillar 1, decarbonization. There is only one action which is very explicit about NbS. In third objective, we plan to again focus on implementation on the ground and scaling up. So we plan to monitor and evaluate our pilots from the first phase of the ADAPT. That's something that I didn't mention, I forgot, but one of the most important steps that you need to conduct, something somewhere in between execution and the step before, which is project design, is to develop monitoring and evaluation framework where you would set concrete indicators to follow the success of your project with, of course, baseline values, target values, and roles and responsibilities. So ideally, not all responsibility for monitoring, evaluation, and taking care of the pilot should be on you and your project, but also other relevant stakeholders, including landowners. So we plan to monitor our pilots and to do corrective actions if needed based on the monitoring. Then we plan to pilot NbS in North Macedonia, and we plan to establish or investigate options for establishing NbS regional fund for this type of projects, where ideally bilateral donors and other donors should be involved, should actually provide funds, and where the different groups of stakeholders can compete for the projects. But this is something how we want to, bridge the gaps between bilateral donors and lack of funds for different stakeholders for implementation of NbS. So we will contribute to Action 6 here and Action 58. Finally, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have loads and loads and loads of questions. So I'm thinking how we do this. I think we basically already now can say that there has to be a follow-up meeting in some way between IUCN and BIOS or maybe SONATA, because there were so many things that came up here. But is there anyone who have any short, specific questions for now? Well, lots of things to take in, I think.
Yeah, please go.
Well, you mentioned biodiversity task force. Is that already established in our ministry or
Yeah. It exists. It actually, I assume you know about BioNet, which is you've heard for sure because this worked also was a member. So this BDTF, that is political structure, governmental structure that already exists for several years, and they were involved in different processes, I mean, that are relevant for the region so far, and they are due to their relevance actually recognized as the most important political structure to be involved in implementation of Pillar 5. And when I mentioned BioNet, just for you who doesn't know, that is a network of civil society organizations from the Western Balkans that is actually part of the BDTF. They are kind of observers. I don't think they can vote for anything, but they are observers, and they I mean, I think they can kind of contribute.
Who is the contact person? Do we have it? Someone who is in charge or no?
For BDTF?
Yeah.
Well, IUCN and RCC serve as coordinators of this structure as well. I'm not sure. I mean, I know some of my colleagues working on that. Milica Mišković, you know her, so you can write to her. From RCC, it's Ivana Bošković-Marković, I think. But yeah. I mean, they have regular meetings. They organize their own meetings, I think, twice a year, and with their own agenda. So I cannot say more than that. Maybe,
okay, thank you. I have one more question. Is it the same team? You mentioned also restoration task force. Is that the same team as BDTF team or no?
No. I mentioned that because the members of BDTF are only representatives of ministries for environment and environment protection. So basically, people who are in charge, who are head of sectors for nature conservation, biodiversity conservation. So they are dealing more with these topics. So, I mean, they are more connected with biodiversity and nature conservation. But given that that NbS, for NbS, other sectors are relevant, very relevant as well, such as I mentioned many times, like water management, forestry, agriculture, depending on the type of your project. We realized we need to have, I mean, I never want to say additional structure because there is a lot of structures everywhere through, established through many projects, but let's call it like that. So our idea is to establish this restoration coordination group where we would involve, apart from the, these BDTF people who are more nature protection and biodiversity, other sectors as well. So it's not I mean, this is still not officially established. And we are still to see how we are going to organize it and how it will be governed. But yeah, that's the idea.
Like more comment than a question, because I can see this IUCN work and the SONATA as a partner, because we are just like working on it on a totally different scales, let's say, and using different methods. The main two pillars of this SONATA project is to provide green ecosystem data that can be used even by you, because if you are planning this large, even cross-regional nature-based solution, restoration of forest, for that you need green data, and for that you need the models. Like, it's going to be even better because everything we are going to provide through this project is this pre-phase of implementation nature-based solution. So that's the idea, to boost the capacity now in Vojvodina, then later in Serbia, and with like this big ambition to be like regionally recognized as someone who is providing this green ecosystem data that can be used by academia, by IUCN, by NGO, because all the data we will provide and that green maps will be available through our platform. That's one thing. And the other pillar is that we are trying to build here, but not just exclusively BioSense members, but like NbS, the core team. And this core team will be skilled to facilitate this concept of living lab around bringing nature-based solution to people. So we can like give inputs to through the data and models and facilitate some strategic plans. And then on the other hand, we will be skilled to coordinate living lab activity. Like we do have from the management aspect, we do have, like, for example, people from our CIRP team, that's Center for Management and Product, something like that, who are not researchers, they're like evaluator for living labs. And living labs are something that brings stakeholders in the beginning in the process of planning. So in order to apply nature-based, to implement nature-based solution, you need to plan it from the beginning. Yeah. And we learned a lot yesterday and today, but then it's like process in which in 3 years' time, we will be fully engaged. So it's just something that will improve not just the BioSense work, but also the wider impact that we planned. And somehow maybe it's good to make some connection between us, even at the beginning of Sonata, so you can follow up and count on working together. And also, I can notice from your presentation that neither of those plan restoration, or there is no plan for agricultural area. And we are currently in Sonata are focusing more on these agricultural settings and how to bring a nature-based solution there. And we are well aware there is nothing going to happen without a policy integrated within future CAP policy in Serbia. But one thing that was not promoted by BioSense did this policy brief for agricultural, agroecological measures within agricultural setting. And maybe like it's something that missing for me. I just noticed it missing for all the activities you are coordinating. So that's there. That's the comment.
Thanks, Diana. Maybe I can just shortly address both. First of all, I completely agree that research and data provided by academia and research institutes should be really the basis, because when we start making developing projects and doing actually this baseline research, I mean, you know how it goes in the field. Only in case you have very small scale projects, you can actually hire experts to do research on the ground. But I mean, normally you should rely on existing data, and it always should be like that. First of all, because you're most probably not able to get all the data on the field. You don't have enough time or money through one project. And the second is, why would you keep doubling the work? It doesn't make sense, you know. And so I fully agree. And I also agree we should make, closer connections, even at the beginning of our second phase and your project. So we can see how we can cooperate more closely. It's true that we are kind of working in different sectors, but I mean, how to say, the approach is same, so it is really relevant. And then for the second thing you mentioned, we focused more on forest landscape. So and this project in Gledić was really on a small scale. So a landscape that we had there, forest landscape, didn't really include agriculture land. And that is why, I mean, it does, but really, you know, just some orchard. And so we didn't have any measures dedicated to agriculture. That is why this is missing. our focus was a bit different. In case we had, whenever you have, let's say, a forest landscape, which includes also farmlands, of course, agricultural land, meaning by that, of course, you should have some interventions in the field of agriculture. So that's the reason.
Sorry.
Just to tell you, maybe it will be relevant for you. This Green Agenda for the Western Balkans, as I mentioned, has several pillars. One of them is dedicated to sustainable agriculture. I'm not sure which one. Anna maybe knows, but yeah, it's not that important. You can find this on the internet. So there is dedicated pillar with its own measures only for sustainable agriculture, and that is also why it's kind of, you know, separated.
Okay, because I didn't meant in Gledic, I meant in general, because like the list of the ongoing activities and the implementation, there is like nothing regarding just like this pure agricultural settings in which you need to boost and increase presence and coverage of nature in order to like create microclimate, boost the field like yield production and so on, because nothing's gonna work if we keep this business as usual in future. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, but if there is a separate pillar, then at this very moment we are like more focused onto it. But in general, providing green data sets will help us to make the joint strategies. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Very interesting. I heard a few things. I heard funding. So yeah.
Would you mind just standing maybe next to Tessa or there? Yeah, just so Milica and Anna can see it.
Hi.
So just a few things. I heard funding. I heard, let's call it knowledge transfer. I mean, you produced some material that could be interesting, but it also could come material from Sonata that could go into IUCN in some way. And then we talked, or we trained on stakeholder mapping yesterday, and I'm not sure you had what you call NbS experts. So I don't know how you got to that list and what kind of stakeholder mapping you have been doing, but I think that's also quite interesting. We already heard a question about the list of stakeholders that you have, and if it's possible for Sonata to get access to that list and so on. So there's of course a lot of issues around that, who could have access to what and so on. But anyway, I think there's a lot of things there that could really be beneficial for both. So let's move into the next session, and I don't know if IUCN and the hub talk to each other and know about each other or not. But anyway, it's really nice to have you here, and I can say really shortly that. And that's one of the things I haven't followed up. So the EU has something called Network Nature, which is a network for all the NbS projects. And then I don't know to what degree you've been discussing with the project officer about Sonata. Actually, I think Sonata has to be a member of Network Nature, but I don't know if you've been involved in any way yet. No, that's something to follow up on. Anyway, Network Nature is this network for NbS projects. NbS funded EU projects, and basically if you have an NbS component, you have to be part of a Network Nature. And the idea is to make sure that the NbS knowledge that comes out of all the projects in some way is upscale, let's say. So there's a number of task forces and all. And one of the sort of clever things that Network Nature did was that they decided to start or promote hubs, regional or national hubs. So I'm actually running a Nordic hub on NbS, and Anna and her group is running another. And there was a meeting or a sort of a conference happening. I don't know what. It was a weird event, but really nice, called Nature of Cities in Berlin, maybe last year, where we presented the hubs and had sort of a happening kind of thing. So I'm really happy to have you here and talk a bit about the hub.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the kind introduction. Yes, Milica and myself, we know each other. We collaborated on the ADAPT project as well, but also in the Urban by Nature Southeastern European Hub establishment. And you presented correctly, Network Nature is a network of by now, I think 86 NbS projects that were funded by the European Commission. Since the NbS European agenda is already like 10 years ongoing, almost. It is a quite sound basis of knowledge and collaboration that has been established. I can share now the presentation that I prepared, if you agree. Can you see it?
Yes, if you're in presenters mode, yeah. So if you,
I will now try to make the slide share. Okay, it's visible, right?
yeah, now it works. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yes. Well, basically, we approached the hub's kind of thinking and direction through one of the Horizon projects that CEUS, which is the professional association, implemented with the city of Belgrade as the first Horizon project for our both institutions. And it was called Clever Cities. And in Clever Cities, there was another program called Urban by Nature as a global platform for nature-based solution experts, which already established hubs in China, in South America, Brazil, and other countries. So basically, in the spring 2022, we established the Southeastern European Hub. And as a pre-event and pre-networking, we did make a collaboration in the region during the Nature of Cities Festival. That is the festival that was happening in Berlin as well last year. But it is something that was like having a lot of sessions in the last year. So that was our first exchange of knowledge and experiences. And after that event, in May 2022, we really kicked off the hub. And prior to that, the mayor of the city of Belgrade wrote to the mayors from the region and basically got a letter of interest from 9 mayors in the countries of the Western Balkans and some of the EU countries as well, like Slovenia and Greece. And that approach provided a very valuable exchange of knowledge because obviously EU member states had much more experience in NbS planning and co-implementation than the Western Balkan states. And what I didn't mention, but maybe it is obvious, our approach and focus is more on NbS in urban environments, as opposed to the rural ones and the forestry sector. We are more focused on integrating nature-based solutions in urban planning and urban regeneration. So basically, the city of Belgrade did act as the network secretariat and organized this event, but CEUS as a supporting organization did a lot of facilitation and background work. And the event was quite interactive and very well visited. We had the IUCN representation as well and presentation from Boris Erk, who was at the time the regional director, as well as some follow-up workshops and interactive sessions on how the hub could function in the future. So while we had the financing of the Clever Cities project, we did organize a series of webinars, mostly focusing on the Urban by Nature, or now Network Nature as well, methodology, on how to explore and prioritize and then plan and commit to NbS in mostly urban environments, but then also how to implement and monitor such solutions. And after 2023, when we did have the funding for this covered, we also organized another meeting of the hub members, again, at another session of the Network Nature, the Nature of Cities Festival in 2024. When we are part of the hub, we also do have some directed and co-created workshops and some funding to participate in the events, as already mentioned. So we do organize some local workshops as well, but also we present at the quite big and representative NbS conferences across the Europe. I apologize if there is a noise. It is a little bit distracting me because there is a protest in front of my building, but I don't know if you can hear it. And also we prepared a catalog of regional NbS solutions. It was for 3 hubs that were established within the Clever Cities project from China, Southeastern Europe, and South America. And as I already mentioned twice, the Clever Cities was kind of a starting point for us, because that was the first horizon in which we tested the Living Lab approach in the planning of the plan of detailed regulation for the new linear park in the area of the former railway corridor length of almost 5 kilometers. We started collaborating with the Center for Promotion of Science, who at that time implemented Terrifica project, which was focused on citizen science for recognizing the climate vulnerability. And that project obviously demonstrated that citizens perceived the climate vulnerability in the area which was targeted with the new plan for the linear park. And we found out that we can really build on that climate adaptation need for this area and collaborate on this topic. And in early 2021, I think we did register and got approval and were recognized as an annual adherent member as the first urban living lab in the Western Balkans at that time. And we basically continued that approach with constant collaboration with the Secretariat for Environmental Protection of the City of Belgrade, the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Belgrade, and TEUS and Center for Promotion of Science. In that first project, I will maybe just briefly present that because that is the example of our living lab approach, which has actually the most history, so it is illustrative for the approach. We did use the co-creation methodology, which was developed by the Politecnico di Milano, who was one of the partners of that project. With all the phases and steps and tools and templates and reports. We, of course, customized it and tailor-made. We used a bit of tailor-made approach to adopt it to the local context, and we did not use all the tools that were presented, but the ones that were appropriate. So basically, we tested the co-creation, but for the first time, really, involving citizens in a proactive manner in the very, very early phases of developing an urban plan. And that was quite important because in the last now already 5 or 6 years, the public got much more involved and much more informed and aware about the urban planning, but in a reactive manner, unfortunately, because we have a lot of what we call like investor urbanism and urbanization with a huge amounts of construction and real estate development being employed in the urban areas. So as the first initial step, we established an online questionnaire, which was quite well responded to about the facilities that people would like to use in the park and the ambient that they would like to have. Then we established a task force for development of this plan with initially 40 institutions involved from 7 various sectors, but with the time that number increased. We organized very specific focus groups with various types of collaborators in the task force, sometimes with educational and cultural and recreational institutions from the surrounding of the park, but also with the SMEs and the academia and public utility companies. And that was the first time ever that conditions for urban planning were discussed even before the official instruments of citizen participation and public participation, which is the early public consultation moment. Then we also tested a co-creative competition for design of the linear park, which was a very new idea. The area was divided into 10 sections, and there was a competition for young multidisciplinary teams under 40 years old for the area 4 and 5. And according to the results, the 10 teams out of 28 which applied were selected to develop the design for the new park. And to the competition, more than 150 experts were applied to in those almost 30 teams. And the final design was developed by more than 50 young experts. And then the first draft was presented at not the draft, but the approach was presented at the early public consultation, which is by the law the first moment when the public is actually involved in an urban planning process. And it revealed the tendency to actually use the plan as a real estate development enhancer. And it was even presented that in the park itself, there should be 35,000 square meters of new construction, which was not supported by the citizens and by the expert public. So we systematized a lot of inputs from all those co-creation instruments and submitted it. And it really influenced the final solutions of the designing teams which completely rejected the idea of construction in the park. And in the end, that was the adopted solution. So in the end, there is no new construction in the park except of the NbS demonstration pavilion, but we'll see if that will be constructed at all. That was the time of the COVID, unfortunately. So in the moment of public participation, we did prepare like the digital crowd mapping tools in various platforms, but we also did prepare the hybrid workshops as well, when we again invited a lot of citizens and a lot of neighbors from the area. And we again analyzed how much of the inputs until that moment were integrated in the plan and what else could be integrated. The discussion was quite constructive. It lasted for 3 or 4 hours. And in the end, those inputs were integrated in our not complaints, but the opinions to the urban plan. And a lot of them were resolved in the final phase of the plan development. I would just like to say that those solutions were also integrated as a new technical document in the urban planning documentation, which was never before used. And the good outcomes of this co-creation were that the wider public was really interested to participate for the first time in a proactive manner, but also it was transformative for the planning process itself. It changed the attitude of many urban planners towards ecosystem services and green infrastructure and nature-based solutions, because in the beginning, it was quite obvious from the elaborate of the plan that the approach was much more focused on new real estate, which could, of course, cause gentrification as well. But then the approach did change significantly, but again, with not all the good results, unfortunately. Then the involvement of multiple young professionals obviously had really good outcomes and was really refreshing in this planning process. No new construction was allowed in the park, as I already explained. And then this co-creative process was actually replicated during development and deployment of new important plans and strategic documents in the city of Belgrade. As a follow-up to this process, we are applying the similar methodology in the Urban Greening Plan Plus project, when we are focusing more on the strategic, the strategy of green infrastructure of the city of Belgrade and more strategic approach. And we are testing the new urban nature plans instrument, which was prescribed by the EU biodiversity strategy as the main approach towards NbS implementation in urban areas. And another follow-up opportunity will be the Claim Again project, which was approved and started in January this year. And this one would actually focus on real NbS implementation in the surrounding area of the 2 zones of the linear park. Apart from that, on the local level, we are also developing a lot of educational materials and also educational games. And we did initiating, like engaging the youngest generations. And we started with some, we are testing the NbS schools as NbS Living Labs approach. So yes, that is what we are doing locally. But in any case, we are really eager to strengthen the collaborative network of Urban by Nature Southeastern European Hub. And we did plan to organize a joint meeting of the hub this spring in Belgrade, but due to the quite tense social situation, I don't know if that would be really feasible. But in any case, we would be very glad to widen the network and use this hub as a dissemination and promotion opportunity for our projects, but also for other interested projects as well. That would be all from my side.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments, ideas? Yes.
Thank you, Anna. Do you hear me from this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I wonder if it would be possible for us really to collaborate in terms of dissemination, because we are now starting our activities in that area. So like taking interviews from our experts, trying to find the way how we can attract people to Sonata activities, to webinars, to other, let's say, co-creative events? And what do you think if it would be possible to run maybe some, let's name it, sort of campaign, joint campaign between the hub and Sonata dissemination team to, you know, to reinforce our groups, our activities, to enrich each other with the knowledge. So maybe that could be done. What do you think?
Yes, of course. We are very open for collaboration. The hub instrument is basically a volunteering instrument. So we are backing it up with the ongoing projects that we have. So of course we are as more interested people to engage, the better, and we are always trying to fit it into the some events that we are already planning to implement. So of course we will be very glad to support.
I understand that we have a quite different agenda, but for example, in our case study 2, we have like a very small city, Cantabria, who want to implement some sort of, let's say, activities and NbS measures. So maybe that could be a point.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't mention maybe, but the Network Nature you mentioned did establish the task forces as well on the European level. So yes, we also participate. It is a really good instrument in the task forces on education and on co-creation. And yeah, it's good when you have hub events to have also the task forces cluster events.
I mean, I know the hubs really comes from different sort of backgrounds, and I mean, the Italian hub is really sort of research based. It's I think it's based within the Italian National Research Organization. The Portuguese hub is run by a couple of enthusiasts, let's say, landscape architects, and the Southern European hub is sort of has a sort of municipality or that kind of focus. But so can you say a little bit more about that, and where do you see the hub going? Because from the Nordic perspective, the Nordic hub started as this visions program from the Nordic Council, and we're the different hubs have sort of different ways into NbS, and also what they sort of try to achieve in terms of who to engage and how to engage with them and so on.
Yes, well, we kind of had that as a task a little bit, because in our product of Clever Cities, it was kind of expected that we would engage local authorities as well, and it was really good, and it even surprised us a little bit that they were so responsive. But then it's not really sustainable to expect their engagement continuous and intensive. So yeah, it's also a lot on us who are more like NbS experts from professional associations or from the faculty. And yeah, I see the future as definitely the collaboration of entities from various sectors.
Can I just add up to Leonard's question?
Yeah.
Maybe you said it, but I missed it. So sorry, you can't see me. In the hub you are participating in, who are the main sort of spheres the participants are coming from, and whether you think that there are some, because we are not so focused on urban planning or urban nature-based solutions, do you think there are some stakeholders there that could be potential collaborators for Sonata, taking that, as Diana said previously, we are more focusing on the sort of coming at peace with nature preservation and agriculture or food production in Vojvodina at the moment, but with an ambition to go larger at some point in the future?
Yes. Well, considering we have local authorities, it was important for us because, yeah, we were focused on urban planning, so that realm lies within the public administration. But yeah, not exclusively with urban departments. So we can collaborate also with the departments who are more engaged in agricultural or natural protection spheres. And also, yeah, partners from academia we were mostly focused on spatial planning and urban planning, but we can check about the agriculture colleagues who work more in agricultural sector.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
No, anyone else or anything else? Anything that came up from your side, Anna or Milica, after your own presentations and our discussion? We're going into a session this afternoon because part of the Sonata is to set up an BIOS NbS team. So that's what we're going to discuss. Do you have any input to that or any ideas how that could be, what they should think about when doing this, taking the next step? So it will be sort of an internal hub in a way. I think that's my view, but it might be, their view might be different.
I don't know. Yes, I would not have any particular advice on that.
Yeah, I would need to think of it, but I mean, from our experience, we in the first phase of this project, we focused a lot on work of external experts, and of course on support of our colleagues from NbS sector in IUCN headquarters. We ourselves, I mean, team members, did have some experience or general knowledge about NbS, but when the project started, actually, IUCN launched its NbS standard in 2020. So this project started even before that. I mean, how to say, people and team members couldn't be really familiar with the standard at the time. So we needed all some time to really get familiarized with that and to use how to use it. But not only the standard, but also how to consider all other aspects and, you know, relevant aspects, and how to approach to these consultations, because I mean, how to say, from my own experience and point of view, coming from I mean, I was involved for some time as a research trainee on the Department for Biology, and in general, I'm more analyst type of person than a coordinator. So it's never easy coming from that, how to say, sector to see benefits from inputs that you can get maybe from the local communities. But it can be very relevant to hear other sides. So when setting up the team, I would say that raising your own capacities, to focusing on your own capacities should be the main thing, the main point. So raising your capacities on the NbS standard, but also on understanding of importance of involvement, different, you know, stakeholders, different sectors, understanding better their roles and so on. I mean, only through implementation and application of the standard, you really can get experience. And I mean, nothing comes from really, you know, just learning criteria.
So I have a question for Milica, if we have the time.
Yeah.
Related to the Gleditsch pilot project, maybe I missed it again. How far ago was the forest restoration done? And have you been doing some type of monitoring? Do you have some results on how the implementation has affected the ecosystem?
Well,
Basically, did you follow your own standard?
Did it work?
Yeah, but the thing is that we the implementation on the ground started in spring last year, and it was completed in November, end of November, because I mean, all planting we did late autumn, as it is recommended that you always plant seedlings before the first frosts. so you have higher survival rate. So basically, we didn't have time to monitoring still. We plan to do a baseline study, actually, through development of monitoring and evaluation framework. We set up some baseline values for some indicators because it was possible. Yeah, just maybe to mention that we have different types of indicators. So all of them together covering all aspects of the project, you know, some covering economic aspects, some covering social aspects, some biodiversity aspects. And for all of them that we could, where you actually can find information and data in the literature or on the internet, we actually set up the baseline, but we still miss baseline for the biodiversity due to some, you know, internal procurement procedures that are quite complicated. We missed last season to so 2024 to do the baseline. And we will do it now. However, it's not a problem because we don't expect, you know, to see a difference in, you know,
humans.
Fauna or bird fauna or flora I mean, before several years, you know, time. So now in the first year, we'll complete the baselines, but then we plan to have monitoring in last project year, so 2028. That it is planned to do monitoring after 4 years of implementation, after implementation.
Thank you.
And those indicators that you develop, they are like set of indicators that could be applicable to other location or so on, or it's just local specific and you need to adapt them each time? Because we do have a case study and we need to develop indicators at the beginning, like baseline ones, because after potential intervention, but we will combine it with, most of them we would like to get from the drone imaging and something from the ground truthing, but then I'm really interested in how you organize this set of indicators from economical to the biodiversity one, and is it helpful for us, for example, as a framework?
Well, to be honest, probably some of the indicators can be used by your project or some other projects because, I mean, they can be relevant for, you know, different projects. I mean, I cannot say general, but, you know, indicators that measures diversity of bird species is really rather general than, you know, specific. Yeah. But I mean, we developed this framework based on project itself, so based on its outputs. We don't have indicators based on its outcomes. We don't have indicators that are connected to outputs itself. So we are not, you know, monitor, let's say, survival rate of the seedlings, you know, which would be results, I mean, actually indicator of the output. But we want to measure the success of what seedlings should contribute to, which is outcome. So when you develop indicators at outcome level, they are more general and they probably can be used by, you know, different projects. So the answer is yes, you can probably use some of them. It just depends on your project as well.
Okay, great. Thank you both so much. And I think we'll go for lunch.
It's lunchtime for us.
Yeah.
Have a nice lunch.